My husband invited me to an important business dinner with a potential Japanese partner. I smiled, nodded, and played the supportive spouse as expected. What he didn't know was that I understood every word of Japanese, and when I heard what he said about me to that client, everything shifted. But let me start at the beginning. My name is Sarah, and for 12 years I believed I had a solid marriage. Not perfect, but stable. My husband David was a senior manager at a Bay Area tech company. I worked as a marketing coordinator at a smaller firm. It wasn't glamorous, but I liked it. We lived in a comfortable townhouse in Mountain View, took one vacation a year, and from the outside, our life appeared well organized. But gradually something changed. I couldn't identify the exact moment. Maybe it began when David received his promotion 3 years ago. Maybe it happened slowly, so gradually that I didn't notice until I felt like I was in a different marriage. David became busier, or at least that's what he said. He worked late, travelled often, and when he was home, he was focused on his phone or too tired to talk. Our conversations turned into quick exchanges about errands and obligations. Did you get my dry cleaning? Remember dinner with the Johns on Saturday? Can you handle the lawn service? I convinced myself this was normal after so many years together. Routine replaces excitement and you keep moving forward. I ignored the loneliness that crept in during the quiet evenings when he stayed in his home office and I sat watching shows I didn't care about. About 18 months ago, something shifted for me. One sleepless night, while scrolling through my phone, I saw an ad for a free trial of a Japanese language app. I had taken a semester of Japanese in college, back when I had different goals. I had loved it, the structure, the elegance, the new perspective it offered. But after meeting David, getting married, and starting full-time work, that interest was filed away as something youthful and impractical. That night, with David snoring beside me, I downloaded the app to see what I still remembered. Surprisingly, a lot came back. Hiragana, then katakana. Within weeks, I was absorbed. Every evening, while David worked late or watched financial news, I sat at the kitchen table with my earbuds in studying. I subscribed to a learner podcast, watched Japanese dramas with subtitles and eventually without them. I didn't mention any of this to David, not because it was a secret at first, but because he tended to dismiss anything he thought was unnecessary. 3 years earlier, I had mentioned taking a photography class. He laughed, not harshly, but in a way that made me feel small. You take pictures with your phone like everyone else. A class isn't needed, and when would you have time? After that, I stopped sharing my interests. It was easier. Japanese became my personal space, and I was good at it. I practiced daily, often for hours. I video chatted with tutors on italki, joined online study groups, and read simple novels. After a year, I could understand conversational Japanese well enough to follow movies, podcasts, and solid discussions with tutors. It felt like reclaiming a part of myself. Every new word and grammar pattern was proof I could grow, that I was more than just David's wife. One evening in late September, David came home earlier than usual, clearly excited. "Sarah, great news," he said, loosening his tie while I prepared dinner. "We're close to finalising a partnership with a Japanese tech company. The CEO is visiting next week and I'm taking him to dinner at Hashiri. You'll need to come." I looked up. "A business dinner?" "Yeah," he continued. "Tanaka-san asked if I was married. In Japanese business culture, they like to see stability and family values. It looks good." He grabbed a beer. "You'll just need to look nice, smile, be pleasant. You know, the usual." The way he said the usual bothered me, but I let it go. "Of course. When?" "Next Thursday, 7 p.m. Wear the navy dress with sleeves, conservative but elegant." Then he added, "Tanaka doesn't speak much English, so I'll handle most of the conversation in Japanese. You'll probably be bored, but just smile through it." My heart paused. "You speak Japanese?" "Picked it up from working with our Tokyo office," he said proudly. "I'm fluent now. It's part of why they're considering me for the VP role. Not many here can negotiate in Japanese." He didn't ask if I knew any Japanese. Why would he? In his mind, I was just the spouse who smiled while real discussions happened. After he left the room, I stayed at the counter, thinking. This was a chance to hear how he spoke when he assumed I couldn't understand. A chance to hear how he described our life. I felt a bit guilty, but the part of me that felt increasingly overlooked wanted clarity. The week moved slowly. I used every spare moment to review business vocabulary and polite forms, making sure I could follow the dinner conversation. I didn't know what to expect. Maybe nothing at all. Maybe I was imagining issues that didn't exist. Thursday arrived. I wore the navy dress, modest heels, simple jewelry. In the mirror, I saw the version of me David preferred, presentable and quiet. The restaurant in San Francisco was modern and expensive. David had used the company account to book it. We arrived early. He checked his reflection on his phone and straightened his tie again. "Remember," he said, "just be pleasant. Don't try to join the business talk. If Tanaka addresses you in English, keep it brief. We need him focused." I nodded, swallowing my frustration. Tanaka-san was already seated. He stood, polite and professional, with silver-rimmed glasses and a tailored suit. David bowed. I followed. They exchanged formal greetings in Japanese. I smiled, appearing unsure, and sat down. The conversation started in English, basic introductions, comments about the restaurant, his hotel, and hosting international partners. His English was better than David had implied, just accented. Once menus arrived, they shifted naturally into Japanese. David's fluency was strong. He spoke smoothly and confidently. They discussed projections, expansion strategies, and technical details. I followed enough to understand, but not everything. Then Tanaka-san turned to me and asked, in polite Japanese, what I did for work. Before I could react, David answered for me. "Oh, Sarah works in marketing," he said in Japanese, "but it's a small company. Nothing serious. More of a hobby to keep her busy. She mainly manages our home." I kept my expression steady, but inside something tightened. A hobby? I had worked in marketing for 15 years, running campaigns and building client relationships, yet he reduced my entire career to something to keep me busy. Tanaka-san nodded politely and didn't press further. The dinner continued. Multiple courses arrived, each carefully presented. I ate slowly, stayed quiet, and listened closely. David, speaking Japanese, was different, more assertive, more boastful. He exaggerated his contributions, claimed credit for team efforts, and portrayed himself as more central to the company's success than he truly was. It wasn't extreme, but it was noticeable, a slightly inflated version of the David I knew. Then the conversation shifted. Tanaka-san mentioned work-life balance and the value of family support in demanding careers. David laughed and my stomach tightened. In Japanese, he said, casually dismissive, that I didn't really understand business. He described me as content with a simple life, saying he managed finances, career planning, and important decisions alone. According to him, I existed mainly for appearances, keeping the house running and looking good at events. I gripped my water glass, feeling the weight of his words. Tanaka-san made a non-committal sound, a flicker of discomfort on his face, but he didn't challenge David and change the topic to long-term goals. David continued in Japanese, detailing plans for the VP role and beyond, including strategic moves like relocating assets and setting up offshore accounts. His tone was casual, but the implications were clear. He was planning a future where I might not have access to marital finances. I stayed calm outwardly while my mind raced. Then came the final revelation. When asked about handling stress, David admitted to an affair. He described Jennifer, a colleague, and how she understood his ambitions in ways I supposedly could not. I remained still, my face neutral, though inside I was reeling. Years of practicing composure helped me maintain the smile, keep my hands steady, and remain seated. Dismissing my career, reducing me to a decorative role, hiding finances and having an affair, this was the man I had been married to for 12 years, the version of him he thought I couldn't understand. Tanaka-san's discomfort was evident. He redirected the conversation, keeping it professional. The dinner ended. Tanaka-san bowed to me, speaking careful English. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Mrs. Sarah. I wish you well." Something in his eyes suggested he might have understood more than he let on. The drive home was quiet. David seemed satisfied, humming along to the radio. "That went well. I think we're going to close this deal." Tanaka seemed impressed. "That's wonderful," I said, my voice hollow. At home, he kissed my cheek distractedly and went to his office. I closed the bedroom door, stood in silence, then did something I hadn't expected. I called Emma, my college roommate and best friend, now a family law attorney. David had subtly discouraged my friendships, but we'd reconnected online. "Sarah?" she answered, surprised. I need a lawyer, I said, my voice breaking. For 2 hours, I recounted everything. The dinner, the conversation in Japanese, the offshore accounts, the affair, years of being dismissed. Emma listened, analysing everything carefully. She instructed me to stay calm and strategic. She noted that hiding marital assets or moving money without consent could be illegal and unethical, potentially financial fraud. I didn't have proof, just conversation, but she reassured me we could act. She advised gathering bank statements, tax returns, emails, and any documentation of financial movements. If he moved money, there would be a trail. She reminded me of my capabilities, citing the language skills I had developed secretly. I was not alone. After the call, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of betrayal, anger, grief, fear, but underneath a clear determination grew. I would no longer be the decorative wife, dismissed, diminished, or cheated on. I resolved to take control of my life, even if it meant dismantling everything I had built. The next morning, I called in sick. David barely noticed, leaving for work. Once he was gone, I began documenting. David's home office held meticulous records. Bank statements, tax returns, investment accounts. I photographed everything and uploaded it to a private cloud Emma had prepared. I discovered 2 accounts I had never seen, with $50,000 transferred over 8 months to a bank in the Cayman Islands. Our joint savings had been slowly drained. I found emails about properties I didn't know we owned, everything in his name, and correspondences with Jennifer that confirmed the affair and plans excluding me. One email referred to me as the Sarah situation, clearly a problem to be managed. Over 6 weeks, I gathered evidence while maintaining appearances, cooking, engaging politely, pretending nothing had changed. Emma guided the process, reviewing documents, building the strategy. Our plan was to file for divorce and simultaneously report his financial misconduct to his company's ethics board. The offshore accounts violated policy, and he risked losing both marriage and career. When Emma asked if I wanted to proceed, knowing the consequences for him, I affirmed. He had already planned for this himself. I was just moving first. We chose a Friday. Emma filed the divorce papers Thursday afternoon. Friday morning, I dressed as if for work, but went straight to Emma's office. David's HR department would receive our evidence package at 9 a.m., and the divorce papers would be served to him at 9:30. I sat in Emma's conference room, drinking coffee I couldn't taste, watching the clock. My phone was off. I didn't want to see his calls or texts. At 11, Emma confirmed papers served, evidence received. HR immediately placed David on administrative leave pending investigation. "How do you feel?" Emma asked. Terrified, I admitted I wasn't sure, but it was the right action. I stayed at Emma's that night. She had a guest room and told me to stay as long as I needed. She helped me draft emails to my employer, explaining I'd be taking FMLA leave for personal reasons. We ordered takeout, drank wine, and for the first time in years, I felt I could breathe. David tried calling 47 times that day, leaving voicemails ranging from confused to angry to pleading. I didn't listen. Emma documented everything for the case. On Saturday, with Emma and a police officer as precaution, I returned to the house to collect my belongings. David was there, looking unkempt and exhausted. "Sarah, please," he began. I raised a hand. "Don't. Explain what? That you've been cheating, hiding money? That you called me too simple to understand your world? I heard every word at that dinner, every single word." His face went pale. You don't speak Japanese?" "I've been fluent for over a year. Funny how you never asked." I continued, recounting the evidence of financial moves and the affair. He sank onto the couch. "The company put me on leave, like I could lose my job." "Not my problem anymore," I said, walking toward our bedroom to pack. "Wait," he called desperately. "We can fix this. Couples therapy. I'll end things with Jennifer. We can work it out." I looked at him. "Really?" After 12 years, the man I loved, I realized he didn't want to fix our marriage. He wanted to protect his career, his image, his finances. He wasn't sorry for hurting me. He was sorry he got caught. "You told Tanaka-san I was just for appearance, too simple, unambitious, a live-in housekeeper who looks good at events. Do you even remember saying that?" He said nothing. "I'm done being small for you, David. Done being the convenient wife. File counter motions if you want. Fight the divorce, but you won't win. And you won't get away with hiding assets." I packed for 2 hours while he sat on the couch, staring at nothing. The divorce process lasted 8 months. California law required a 6-month waiting period after filing, and we spent that time negotiating settlement terms. The company's investigation found sufficient evidence of ethical violations, and David was terminated. He eventually found another job, but at a lower level and pay. The offshore accounts were disclosed and divided, and the properties I hadn't known about became marital assets. I walked away with half of what he tried to hide, plus 3 years of spousal support to rebuild my career. 2 months into the process, Tanaka-san contacted me via LinkedIn. His message was brief but warm. He had heard about the divorce and wondered if I might be interested in a position at his company. They were opening a US office and needed someone with knowledge of American marketing and Japanese business culture. He wrote that my skill set would be invaluable. I met with him and his team and spoke Japanese from the first moment. His eyes lit up with respect and a hint of amusement that I had understood that dinner all along. "I knew," he said in Japanese at the end of my interview. "The way you held yourself when David spoke about you, I saw the understanding in your eyes. Just for a moment, I'm glad you found your strength." They offered me the position of senior marketing director, triple my previous salary. I accepted. I'm 63 now. This happened over 20 years ago, but I remember every detail. The divorce, as painful as it was, gave me my life back. I ran that department for 15 years before retiring, travelled to Japan multiple times, made genuine friends, and became someone beyond being a spouse. I never remarried, dated occasionally, had one serious relationship that ended amicably. I never again made my world small to fit someone else's vision of me. David emailed me 3 years after the divorce, apologising for how things ended and wishing me well. I never responded. Some chapters don't need closure. I still study Japanese, now for pleasure, reading novels, watching films, tutoring young professionals. The language that started as a secret became my lifeline, showing me I was capable of far more than I had allowed myself to believe. That dinner at Hashiri was the worst and best night of my life. Worst because it revealed the truths that shattered my world. Best because it forced me to act, to stop accepting less than I deserved. So if you're listening and feel invisible in your marriage, where your interests are dismissed, take note. Pay attention to that feeling. Learn the language, gather evidence, find your Emma. When you're ready, reclaim your life. It won't be easy. It will hurt. You will question everything. But beyond that pain is a life where you can be fully yourself, where your voice matters and you're not decorative, but essential. That life is worth fighting for.